Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Deep Waves Transformation. Today's guest is someone who doesn't just walk through the fire, she teaches others how to rise from it. Lisa Van Slyke is a powerful speaker, author, and the host of Rabbit Hole Reflections, a podcast that dives into the sacred, messy, and often unspoken journeys we take from darkness to light. Rooted in grit, grace, and the hard earned wisdom of personal transformation, Lisa is a guide for anyone who has ever felt silenced, shut down, or disconnected from their truth. Her work speaks directly to what it means to reclaim your voice after trauma, to rise from the emotional numbness, and to turn quieted flames into bold sparks of purpose. She's not afraid to go deep because she's lived it. From grief to grit to growth, Lisa's story is one of awakening, and her mission is to help others rediscover their fire. We'll talk today about reclaiming our voice, the sacred power of storytelling, and what she learned through literally eating fire, launching a podcast, and finding her purpose on the other side of silence. Lisa, it's an honor to have you here. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. It is my pleasure.
Aw, thank you so much for being here. So take us back to the beginning. What led you to even want to start a healing journey?
I was tired of being tired. I had put myself in the proverbial box that everyone wants you to be in when you're a mother, when you're a partner, when you're an employee, and when you're a member of modern day society. I was I felt really tiny. I felt really squished. And I was tired of not having the support that I needed or craved. I craved the support in wanting to do what I wanted to do with my life. And I kept getting pushed aside and no, you're not supposed to do that. That's not what a good wife or a good mother is supposed to do. I can't support you on that one. And I just kind of got tired of it. So I started my journey in healing myself. I didn't know what I was doing, as does who does know what they're doing when they first
Right.
start?
Like, where do we start? Yeah,
It was
exactly.
like, where do you start? And I started with
Yep.
participating in a book. It was an anthology that talked about how women can heal the world through their stories and how we collectively learned how to heal ourselves through the online space of Facebook groups and Reddits or any type of support groups or Zoom meetings that were being offered. So that was back in 2015. So that's pretty much where my
Okay.
journey started, and then it just evolved from there.
Okay. Perfect. So, was there a season in your life where your voice felt completely buried? And what helped you even begin to dig it out?
There were more than one. There was more than one season. A little bit of background. I've been divorced twice, and the first marriage was at a very young age. I was 19 when I married him, and when I was 21, I had my first child. The town that I grew up in was very much small, southern, conservative. Women get married and have babies and they stay home and take care of the husband, and the husband is the provider, very patriarchal in that aspect.
Sure.
So I followed that, thinking that's what I was supposed to do, even though I had these big dreams that I wanted to
Sure.
travel the world and teach English as a second language, and because I'm linguistics is one of my favorite things in the world. And even though I had all these dreams, I followed this other path. And I'm not saying it wasn't the path I wasn't, that I was supposed to follow that, but I
It
followed
was
this
your
other
dictated
path.
path.
Yes, with the conditioning of this is what you're supposed to do with the upbringing that I had. So, two divorces, trying to figure out who I'm supposed to partner with, parent things that, learning from my parents how I thought relationships were supposed to be. I took that into relationships. I had an 8-year relationship that ended because it was very much a more subdued version of the first two marriages, but it was still a repetitive thing. I was still finding myself in very similar relationship. And I've recently
Okay.
ended a 5-year relationship that was very similar into with the other ones. So I'd pick a season. I don't, there's so many different ones. It's
Well,
like
let's talk
I
about the
felt
similarities between the marriages.
the
What
similarities,
were they? How did you break free from those similarities, the patterns?
the similarities were very much finding a man to support me, and it wasn't a partnership where I was being supported back. They just didn't align with my soul. The 8-year relationship, my marriages were only like 3.5 years. They were very brief. The 8-year relationship, I describe that as both of our souls. It was both of our souls were not, it was soul sucking. And I don't know any other way to describe it other than it was very,
Yeah, no, you said it beautifully.
neither one of us were, we both knew we weren't in the right relationship, but we were raising our children together. Now, we didn't have shared children, but we had shared children. So it was my stepchildren, his stepchildren. Um, the he was still from the South, still that very much the man takes care of this and the woman is supposed to do this. Um, which is fine. That just wasn't, our personalities conflicted. I wanted to do so much more. I'm a terrible housewife. I'm just not a good housewife. And it's just not, it's not for me. And I admire and I sometimes envy women who can pour so much into their families and their homes because I never had that in me. It was never a part of who I was. So that was really the underlying foundation, is that the partnership wasn't aligned because I was trying to be something for them that I wasn't.
Right. And so in turn, what did that do for you?
It taught me a lot. I learned a lot.
Mhm.
I learned how to compromise and to be a mediator in ways I never thought possible. And I take that to this day to help people who are in challenging situations for, in, as an employee, helping the employer, my boss, see my, coworker's perspective and the coworker seeing the boss's perspective. So there's this mediation that I never thought that I would ever be able to do. I definitely took that. I learned what I don't want, so that the next time it's cut and
Perfect.
dry, it's going to be aligned and it's going to be what I want. And I'm drawing that to me as opposed to forcing it to happen. So
Perfect. When did you become aware of what you did not want?
partway through this 5-year relationship, particularly when it comes to a romantic relationship, 5 year partway into this 5-year relationship, we just tried to force it. We tried to compromise too much, and it was a beautiful relationship, other than there were certain things in his end goals that he wanted that I would never be able to provide for him. And in the same token, for him, there were certain things in my end goal that he just wasn't at that point in life that he would be able to provide for me. So it really was bad timing. It was a great relationship. It was beautiful. There was mutual respect. I've never been treated so good in my life from another man. So that was amazing. I learned so much in that relationship that I know exactly how to hone in what I want the next time. As far as employment goes, I learned I am not an employee. I am not an employee. I wish I could be an employee, but I have other gifts that are not needed in the corporate world that I need to bring to the world, in other ways. So if you look at a different perspective of not a romantic relationship, then there's that aspect. If you look at the connection of the parental role in my life and what I learned I need to be my own parent. I learned that I need to take my inner child and sit down with her every once in a while and really love on her and tell her that it's okay, that she is protected and that she is secure now. So depends on what aspect you're looking at, is what I've learned.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, good for you. That's the key right there. That's the first step, is becoming aware. So then you speak a lot about silence. So if silence could speak, what do you think yours was trying to tell you?
That is a great question. My silence was screaming at me. I am a 5-year recovered alcoholic. So I have been sober for 5 years. I
Congratulations.
Thank you. I'm so proud of that. I was trying to, on and off, depending on what situation was happening, alcohol would be my best friend. I always knew I could turn to it. I didn't realize what it was doing for my emotions and how it was actually numbing me, and that I always thought I had a handle on it, or like it's just to relax and have a good time. I didn't
We made
We made
excuses.
excuses. I didn't
Yeah.
accept fully that I was using it as a coping mechanism that wasn't healthy for me. It wasn't allowing me to see what I needed to see. So in the 5 years of being sober, whew, it has been a mess. But in the times that I was using the alcohol, or I was being somebody who my soul was like, this is not it. My silence was screaming at me, girl, stop, get out
Yeah.
of this. And it wasn't so much that it was a toxic situation in how the fluid word of toxicity goes, or we have this buzzword of toxic and these narcissistic relationships and whatnot. It wasn't toxic in that it was abusive. It was just toxic to my soul because I couldn't be who I wanted to be, or so I thought, because I also put myself in the box and I made the thoughts and I made the decisions for people without even having a conversation with them. So that was a lot of my silence screaming at me was, well, he wants me to be this way, or I think he wants me to be this way, or I think he wants me to do this. So I'm not going to go and do this. And you know what?
Right.
I actually don't know if that was a solid truth or not. So yeah, it
Right.
was screaming loud.
Wow. So then how did you maintain sobriety while going through a healing journey?
So I've been an on again, off again drinker. And I've been an on again, off again, getting onto my spiritual path or my healing path. And the 5-year mark, so I stopped drinking right before the world shut down. I mean, like 20 days before the whole entire world shut down in 2020. And during that time, the world slowed down. I don't even like to call it shut down. I think we slowed down. We had time to reflect. We had time to make connections with family. We weren't the hustle bustle and the go, go, go and the instant gratification that society is, even after we went through that massive trauma, if you will.
Yeah.
I had a lot of time to reflect, but I had good people in my corner who supported me, and changing some of the habits that I had associated with drinking. I would go out on my back porch and just mindlessly not even pay attention and play my music, play my games on my phone, because there's another coping mechanism that's not a very healthy coping mechanism, right? Doom scrolling
Technology. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
drinking and
Yeah.
smoking. So I stopped doing some of the things that were part of the habit, and that definitely helped me disconnect. But during that 5 years, when you stop the coping mechanism that you think is helping you, you're forced to find other coping mechanisms. You're forced to see things in a completely different way. And the emotional floodgates, the mess, it was just,
Oh, I bet.
wow. It was so scary. It was messy. It was painful. It hurt, but it was the most beautiful, beautiful moment of my life. Even in the mess and even sitting in the mess, it was still so surreal and so beautiful. So for me, the healing was something I had started years ago, but I just became more aware of how I needed to heal it because I took away something that was not allowing me to see it properly to begin with.
Yeah, I agree. So for me, my story when COVID shut down was I was in a really bad, toxic, abusive relationship during that time. So I don't really look at COVID as like a curse. I almost look at it like you said, it slowed us down and it made us pause and it made us reflect and it made us become aware. And so during that, that gave me a lot of time to do the research, to learn the education while I'm in this relationship. So I look at it like a blessing. Like it was the universe sending me signs like, girl, I got you.
Yes.
You need to slow down for a minute. You need to learn who you're with so you can get the hell out.
It was really
Yeah.
eye opening for a lot of people. Some
Yep.
people took up habits that might not have been as good for them as they should have. But, the majority of us, our planet even healed during that time, and a majority of us we took up I don't even know what we took up. If we just, we took
We
on the
did.
mission of healing ourselves and getting better. So, yeah,
We did.
it was a
So
beautiful
you
time.
speak so beautifully about burning for your voice. So
So,
how does someone begin to recognize the silent ache inside of them, and how do they start honoring that?
for me, during my healing process, I was just having a conversation with a friend of today. Right before the show, I was pulled over for speeding. I was
Oh,
I was in a group of people. I was in a group of people who were also speeding. In fact, somebody buzzed by me and I was like, "You mean you didn't see that guy go past me in his vehicle?
wow.
This is not okay. Why are you pulling me over?" I felt very targeted. But I was on the phone with a friend of mine during that time, and I realized why I had such an issue with male authority. At that point, it had never dawned on me that why I have issues with male authority. It doesn't it's even simpler than patriarchy. When I was a child, I was at a summer camp and it was nap time. I was like 9. I was like, 9-year-olds don't take naps, but I had to lay down on this cot anyway because that was the rule. If you
Right.
followed the rules, you
Yeah.
respected authority. And
Obedience, obedience, obedience.
yes,
That's the rule in life.
and
Yep.
this little girl liked the bracelets that were on my arm. And she wasn't that much younger than me, but she liked the bracelets on my arm and she started playing with them. Well, one of the camp directors, who was a male, came in and said that I was breaking the rules. He grabbed the cot with both hands and he dumped me out of the cot, drug me in the cot to the hallway, and made me sleep in the hallway because I was breaking the rules. And I was like, oh,
Oh
but
my
I forgot
God.
about that until I was pulled over by this cop today. And I was like, wait a minute, why are you singling me out? Other people are doing wrong. And my little girl was like, but do you remember when? And I was like, well, no, I didn't remember that.
Yeah,
But
you were literally slapped in the face with a trigger from the
yes.
past.
And so,
So what did that teach you?
well, for me, it was not so much what it taught me, but it made me recognize this is something I might need to go back and heal because my little girl is still like, oh hell no. Who do you
Yeah,
think you are,
exactly.
Mr. Man? This is not okay.
Yeah.
So
Uh-huh.
might be something I need to I because the cop didn't deserve my attitude. He
Right.
really
Yeah,
didn't
that's
deserve my
okay.
attitude. But at that time, I was like, you just caught me on the wrong day. And it's not okay. Like even us spiritual people, even us healers, we still have bad days, right? So I did
Yes, we do.
apologize to him and I owned it and he apologized to me. So I was not in handcuffs. It wasn't like that. But it was just one of those moments I was like, oh, all of a sudden my little girl was like, but do you remember when? And so through my healing process, I've been more aware of the triggers and I can pinpoint to exactly what it was. So now I can go back and heal that and lessen the result of the trigger when the trigger happens because triggers are going to continue to happen.
Sure.
So that was just a small story to tell you the whole fire thing. We all have this fire burning in us. For me, it's a silent scream, but there's a pilot light that just needs to be reignited or we need to turn the flame up just a little bit more. But we're silenced by whatever conditioning we've had, whatever excuse we're giving ourselves to stay in that relationship or stay at that job or and I hate the word excuse because sometimes we can rationalize it. But for me, it's what is it that's dimming that fire? And I'm going to let you go because I want to segue into another story, but I feel like you might have another question for me.
No, I'm all ears. The only thing I would say is that means a lot to me, your metaphor behind all of this, because I had just held a protest in Salt Lake City up at the Capitol, and I titled my protest "Stop the Silence, Start the Change." And it was on the news and everything. And it was to raise awareness on domestic violence and sexual assault. So for me to you, thank you so much
Well, thank
for
you for
raising
taking a
awareness to that
stand. That's
metaphor.
amazing. That is fabulous. Thank you for that because it is so very important. And it's not just important for women, it's important for men because we need men in our journeys as well to help heal us, but we also need to heal some men out there as well. So thank you for taking that on. That's beautiful. I have a little bit of a background in domestic violence, so seriously, thank you for that.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you're open, I'd love to hear
Sure.
and share.
Absolutely. Let me go back just a little bit though with the
Please.
eating the fire.
Yes.
So that happened the week before my birthday this year, and it happened like a week and a half before the ending of that 5-year relationship that I was in. I was at a speaking event where we just heard from amazing speakers and they were offering their programs, and it was this intensive, beautiful experience here in Dallas, Texas. One of the speakers, the first one of Saturday morning, is a gentleman out of Las Vegas. He does hypnotism as part of his healing, helping people transform their lives. He was talking and he asked the question, who would come up here and eat fire if I offered it to you? And my hand went straight up. I was like, whoa, okay.
Oh
I
my
guess I'm going to
God.
go and eat some fire if he asks me. But there was only one other
Wow.
person in the room that said yes. So he didn't talk about it anymore. He went on and did some more beautiful stories, amazing transformations, showed, people he had worked with their transformations and whatnot. Then he asked the question again about going up on stage and eating fire. And I was like, call me. Why haven't you, why haven't we done this already? Why am I not up there right now?
Yeah.
And then he said that if I told you it's valued at this and that you'll get this from it and this and it's worth $60,000, who would want to come up here and eat fire? And everybody in the room raised their hand. And I was like, I told you I'd do it for free, like right now. Why am I not up there yet?
Right.
He ended up calling me to the stage. I was the only one chosen out of the room. And he convinced me that I was absolutely going to be able to eat fire and not die from it. So I did. He walked me through this whole like harnessing the power of your mind. And I just used 3 words. And he said, okay, I'm lighting it. Do you want to eat the fire? I said, let's do it. And
Hell
the flame went in my mouth and the little stick that was on fire came out and the fire was out. And I was like,
shit. Hell yeah.
I just ate fire.
That's
And the whole
awesome.
entire room stood up and applauded. And I was like, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Right before he called me on stage, I would say not even 2 minutes before that man called me on stage, I realized why I was sitting exactly where I was sitting because it's a pattern that I continually repeat. I was in a back corner because I want to see the entire room. Anytime I walk in a corner and I have to sit, I will never go to the front. I will stay in the back and I'll stay in a corner. Part of that is for protection. I want to be able to see everything. I don't trust people coming in the door. You never know. That's an issue I might need to work through, but it's because I'm afraid of being seen. So when I was sitting in that
Okay.
back corner and this man was talking, and I can't even tell you what he was talking about, I had the epiphany of why I play small, why I hide myself, and why I sit in the corner. And it's because of a conditioning that I had when I was a child in elementary school. When you're bullied for being a smart, outspoken person, and they're telling you, you need to stop being a know it all, you need to stop answering all the questions first,
Oh yeah. I've heard
all
that.
of those things that come along with being the person who can answer the question, 1 or 2 people in the room can be the fastest at it or whatnot. It kind of takes its toll on you. So I started to hide and I started to withdraw and I stopped using my natural born gifts because I was getting picked on. And I realized that right before he called me on stage. So when I went up there and I ate the fire and all these people are applauding for me, and I just did something that, like, this is fabulous. I just ate fire. It was miraculous. And that
Right?
is
That's
where the
incredible.
whole helping people spark their flames again came from. It wasn't, most of it was in the past working with helping you reclaim your voice and to stop being silent, but it goes deeper than that. Why are you silent? Because your flame, my soul was dying when I was in that 8-year relationship. It was nothing like what my relationship should have been. And it wasn't a relationship for him either. It was a bad relationship for him because he wasn't getting what he needed out of a relationship. So we had this exchange of just not aligning and of taking things from each other that it was our soul. If you get down to it, we were dying on the inside a little bit. So
Yeah.
to recognize that part of the reason why I played small is because of that bullying that I experienced when I was in elementary school, was because of that. But I also took that into playing small in relationships and playing small in my life. So part of that was I did take that into the relationship aspect as well. I played small even in my relationships. I didn't step up to be the best housewife. I said, you know what? This is what I'm going to be. I'm going to be a housewife. But I didn't step up to be the best housewife. I know I didn't step up to be the best parent. I told you, I had drinking in and out of the relation of that, time frame when I was raising my kids. So not showing up because I wasn't showing up for myself. I was playing small for myself. So the finding that flame again is, when you're silenced, it's to me it's deeper than just being silent. You're experiencing something that you don't get to be who you are, and it's a very, you're subdued, your energy, your vibration is very low. So bringing that flame back to help you figure out how to continue. We're phoenixes. We're going to continue to rise from the ashes. And we're going to have many, many times where we're going to be burned. Grief, somebody that we love is going to die, and we're going to have to process that. Relationships might end, and it has nothing to do with us so much as somebody just might not want to be in our life anymore. You can't control if you're laid off or if you're in an accident. There's some things you cannot control externally. So you're going to have moments. We're human, we're in these bodies to experience this human life, and those situations in this timeline that we're going to experience can cause us to burn, but we can always rise up again. And if we know how to find that flame and reignite that pilot light to help that flame burn brighter, then we can move through those experiences with a little bit more grace, maybe a little bit quicker. We can notice if we're triggered by something. And so we can bring ourselves back to center a lot easier.
Sure. And so then with that, did you have to end up learning how to do a lot of chakra work? So like for me, I had to really learn how to open up my throat chakra because my voice has been silenced. And so like learning how to I'm a singer, and so like I completely stopped singing while I was in
Oh,
this relationship. So I felt like I lost my spark. Absolutely. It was turned down because they didn't like the music I was singing. So I put I stopped singing for like 3 years. And so I started to sing again, and like it felt so good, and I felt it. You can just feel it opening and opening. Is that like the same experience you had where you really had to practice this, just opening?
that's a great question. No. For me, my voice was always on. The I guess let me rephrase. My voice was always on for other people. If I ever see somebody being mistreated, I'm going to speak
Sure.
up. So from it wasn't so much my voice for myself because I would go from like nothing to full on rage. So my
Sure.
throat chakra was always open if I needed it to be. For me,
But
it was
here's the thing is the same, like I can relate to you on that. But then I feel like, why are we speaking up for others and we can't put that much passion into ourselves and speaking up for ourselves? It's like, wait a minute, you know it's there. So use it,
yeah.
right?
Yes. So for me, it
Yeah.
was the heart chakra. I my
Okay.
I was not opening up my own heart to myself. I did not love myself as much as I loved other people. I did not pour into myself as much as I poured into other people. And another part of
Sure.
it was my sacral. Like I wasn't following my gut, and I was like, nope. I had that turned off. Like I was like, no, I know I'm not supposed to be here, but this, and this is why I'm staying. And we're not walking away right now because he's paying all of my bills. He's providing a space for my children to have to call home. He's, there's food on the table. I get to have this experience with our children and be the best version of a stay-at-home mom that I can possibly be. So I had all these other things that I put on top of that intuition that was like, this probably isn't what you're supposed to be in. And it took that time that I needed to be there, right? Your path is your path. Whether you believe in predestined path or you are the owner of your own destiny, it's your path and you're on it for whatever reason that you're on it. You can make it go faster, you can divert, but pretty much your path is your path in my beliefs. So for me, it was I needed to protect myself. I needed to be in survivor mode. So it wasn't so much the throat as it was the heart and then my intuition. So
Trusting that intuition, right?
hard.
Because you leaned on others so much for that you didn't feel like you could actually take the time to tap into that, right? What did it feel like the first time you heard your own voice again, not just your words, but your actual truth?
I started my podcast originally back in 2016, I want to say. I was living in San Antonio, Texas. I was in that 8-year relationship. We were raising our children together and I was working part-time. And that's when I first started really diving into spirituality. Let me backtrack just a minute to let you know I was raised in a very religious home. I went to church every time the doors were open. It didn't matter what it was. We were at the church. The schools that I attended were Christian schools from pre-kindergarten all the way to senior year. So I was raised in a very religious home. Spirituality was a small part of the religion. I was raised in a hellfire and brimstone religion and or part of Christianity. So there wasn't a lot of spirituality in the aspect of what the Holy Spirit and Christ and God as the Trinity could do for you. It was, you have to follow the rules, you have to do these things, and then you're going to go to heaven. So it was a whole different world than when I started my spiritual journey in 2015. I was part of that book that was the collection of women's stories. In that experience, I met some amazing, just absolute wonderful people. One of them is still one of my very best friends to this day. She and I started a podcast together because of that book. So she and I were doing our podcast. Said, you know what? I think I want to do my own podcast. I love stories. I love hearing people's stories. I love sharing people's stories. There's so much we can learn, even if it's just interest, even if it's just an interesting story. It's just, I love them. So I want to start my own podcast.
I learn every single time I have one.
Yes,
So
exactly.
every
Right?
single time, that's the point. We need to be learning from each other.
Yes, yes. So I started Rabbit Hole Reflections in 2016. Then I moved to Dallas and I stopped doing my podcast. That was in 2019. The pandemic happened.
Okay.
I have a very hard time keeping a job for more than a year. It's because I just wasn't finding the job that suited me, right? That matched me personality wise and skill set wise. So I came off of this job. My parents, they're 85. They moved in with me. I started taking care of them. I said, the world is hurting. This was about 2023. And I started thinking the world is really hurting. We're having some things happen that, whew, we just need some love. And so then I went and I waited a year. I was like, well, I'm not quite sure. Not following that gut intuition, right? Not following my heart. I was like, well, no, here's all the excuses that I'm layering on top of it. And then at the middle of 2024, I started dabbling in the possibility of really bringing it back. By December of 2024, I was like, that's it. I'm bringing my podcast back. I'm not going to talk about what's going on in the world. I try not to focus on that. I'm aware of it, but I don't put my focus there because I'm trying to have a good, positive, abundant life, and focusing on certain things will not bring that to me. So I said, that's it. I have got to bring this podcast back. People have asked me about it. I can share these healing stories with the world again, and people can listen and take what they need to start their own healing journey. And even if you're on a deep healing journey already or deep into your healing journey, you can still learn something from these people who come onto my show. So I started it more of a anybody who has a story to tell can come on and tell their story. I started in February and have since changed what is actually going to be allowed to air for the show. But now it's really people who are on a spiritual journey, who are on that healing journey. There has to be healing and there has to be the underlying foundation
Perfect.
of spirituality. No matter what the gamut is, there has to be that underlying foundation of spirituality. So when I did it, the first episode,
Absolutely.
that first episode was, I mean, I love my podcast. It lights me up. It lights me up. I was doing the podcast when I ate the fire and I was like, this is my sign. This podcast is going to be exactly what I want it
I
to
do
be. And it's going to
too.
help me reach the world. So, yeah.
Yeah, get those creativity juices flowing again, right? So then, if someone's listening is still in silence, still in the smoke, what would you gently say to them today?
Oh, I see you. I love you. And it's going to be okay. It will be okay. Take that first step towards honoring yourself. And if you need help, there are so many resources
Yes.
that are free and are available to help you start moving through those first steps of finding yourself again. And it's scary and it's messy and it's the most beautiful thing you will ever do for yourself.
Yes, it is. Well, Lisa, thank you for showing us what it means to rise from the ashes with fire, still in your voice. Your journey is a reminder that silence may shape us, but it never has to define us. To all of you listening, your voice is sacred. Your story matters. And even if it's been quieted, it's never too late to speak again. Follow Lisa on Instagram at the Lisa V. Check out her podcast, Rabbit Hole Reflections, and stay tuned for her upcoming book, Quieted Flames and Silent Sparks. And as always, thank you for riding the waves with us on the Deep Waves Transformation podcast. Until next time, keep healing, keep rising, and keep reclaiming your voice. Take care, everybody. Have a blessed day. Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you.
For more information on where to find me, please visit deepwavescoaching.com and on my Facebook and Instagram page at Deep Waves Life Coaching. For more information on where to find Lisa, please visit her Instagram page at the Lisa V. Also, check out her podcast, The Rabbit Hole Reflections, on Facebook, along with her website and speaker bookings at thelisav.com. Also, be on the lookout for her upcoming book, Quieted Flames and Silent Sparks. Thank you so much for watching.